Hello everyone, welcome to the third video in this series about auditing ZK apps. In the first two sessions we looked at some more general areas. What I would like to do in this session is to look at some of the critical areas from a security point of view and some specific things that you should look out for, specific vulnerabilities. And as an auditor, you want to identify potential attack vectors that the developer may have overlooked. And some of those will be related to the zero knowledge aspects of the applications, but also some will be related to, say, just normal logic errors. For each of these areas, I'm going to start with a small summary and then go into further detail, sometimes with some example code for you to have a look at. So let's start by thinking about the environment. And it's really important that you remember that we have an adversarial environment. Our code is running in an adversarial environment. And so the focus we need to have is to expect some malicious inputs or maybe malicious composition of transactions. Now, if you're looking at some code and you're thinking about vulnerabilities that may exist, some of the red flags that you may see are, say, missing validation for edge cases, or failure to enforce preconditions before we have a state change, or lacking an explicit check on the caller identity where that is important. So how can we see if these are indeed vulnerabilities? Well, we can test these out. So we could try adding inputs to these particular functions with extreme values, with values that the developer may not have thought of. And also we can do transactions in unexpected sequences. And so as we're doing this, we should always be thinking, what assumptions do the developer have about the inputs and how can these be violated? So I have an example here of some code where there are some unchecked preconditions. And so this will hopefully be something that you will be able to then easily look for in code and recognize where there's a similar problem. So in the first part here, we have the vulnerable pattern where we are getting a balance, but we're not verifying the state read that we are doing. What we should do is given in the second piece of code here, where we use the get and require equals method when we are reading the state. So other things that you can do then are to try some testing and create test cases with edge inputs, zero values, maximum values, invalid inputs, and see what happens with the logic when these inputs go into the function. What we would like to see is that all of the inputs are sanitized before they are handled. And this area of security, this approach, is sometimes called taint analysis, because what you're doing is you're saying that the input to our code is tainted, and given that that is the case, what could possibly happen? What could possibly go wrong? So some questions you may want to ask when you're looking at code are preconditions checked before we have state modification? Can the sequence of transactions be manipulated to bypass some restrictions in the code? And are all the inputs that a user can supply, are they all properly validated? Remember that if somebody wants to attack your code, really the main way that they can do that is by crafting the input to your code in such a way that it will cause problems. And in order to verify this, the best way is to create some unit tests or some some tests, build some proof of concepts using transactions that will break these invariants.